Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. Hey Team Healthy, welcome to another episode of Unbound. Now keep in mind, this is a series where I take questions that have been sent to me by you, and I'm going to respond to them. And typically, like today, I've got a couple of comments or questions that have come in that I want to put together in this one piece. One of the things that I want to focus on is the fact that when you have your struggles with a narcissist and it's just been an ongoing, long-standing strain and difficulty, you can have a real sense of frustration and futility in trying to figure out who you can trust and who's going to be open with you about you being able to talk about your experiences. So many times when you say, I've had some difficulty with this person, people want to go straight into the fix-it mode and they minimize who you are. They minimize what your experiences are. So that's kind of a setup. Now, let me start by reading the first question and comment here, and then I've got another one. We're going to be adding some stuff to it. This person writes in and says, generally speaking, people often think if your abusers really did what you say they did, then you should have run away years ago. Therefore, it probably wasn't as bad as you have said, and moreover, maybe you just weren't suffering enough. My reply, this is the person writing inside of me, is, well, the devastation was something difficult to describe and difficult to believe for normal people. There are so many facts that I didn't want to tell anyone because I felt so confused and emotionally unsteady. But finally, I'm realizing that I don't need other people to understand my position. I wonder how many times you felt the same way. I want to talk about my situation, or I feel the need to have some encouragement and support, and yet they come along and say, well, then why didn't you do something about it sooner? They just go right into the you should have and could have, and, you know, going back and trying to grade you on what you did and did not do correctly. Let's break this down and let's ask what's going on, not just inside of you, but what's going on inside of that other individual that makes them think that it's okay to minimize you and to just have these sweeping judgments or presumptions about who you are supposed to be and how you should have done. First and foremost, when somebody talks this way to you after you're trying to explain to them some of the strain, clearly that individual has, they were asleep in the class that started talking about empathy. Let's just put it that way. They're not terribly interested in knowing you. Obviously, they have their own agenda that they're operating with. Why is that? And many times these individuals are so agenda driven, and by agenda, I mean they have this fixed notion about how life is supposed to be, that when something becomes an aberration, then they don't know what to do with you because it's not on the agenda. Or it could be that they themselves have not really experienced what you have, and so they don't have anything to drop on. I remember talking with a man, this was years ago, who had gone through a divorce. And actually, he was an old friend of mine, and I went and had lunch with him one Saturday. And one of the things he told me was, he said, you know, if I had known that going through this process was as difficult as it really is, then I think I would have been a whole lot more sympathetic and understanding towards people that I have known in the past who've gone through the same experience. And many times when somebody just minimizes, part of it is they haven't been through what you've been through, or they just haven't developed empathy. It's just not something that's part of their deep history. In addition, we can ask, well, who appointed you to be the judge in the first place? Why does that person feel the need to say, well, if you come to me and talk about your issues, then I need to be the one to set you straight? That's the ultimate sense of hubris. That's the ultimate egotism and arrogance for that person to say, let me tell you how to run your life. I lost Gus on that one. Or we can also ask, why can't that person tune in with you when you're struggling with grief and loss and hurt? And it could be that they're afraid of that, or it's just they have their own hidden shame that they have chosen to bury, and so they have a difficult time going into the space of hurt and pain. And so they can appear to be smug, but I'm hoping you realize that when somebody comes and minimizes you, so many times it's not about who you are. They have their own hidden agenda. They have their own behind-the-scenes issues that prompt them to be this way. Now, there's another element that can be a part of the difficulty you have when you feel very misunderstood. And it may be that part of it is because you have your own unfinished work done in terms of how you're going to see yourself having been through a difficult situation. Let me read you another comment and question here. This person writes in and says, right now, I can understand that my angry reactions to the narcissist gave fuel to that person and allowed him to justify his awful treatment of me. In other words, that person treated me poorly and I didn't respond very well either. And then this person goes on to say, what he did was a 100% violation of my dignity for sure. But as far as he was concerned, he was innocent because he became an expert in hiding behind his wonderful facade. So this person says, well, part of my problem is now that my struggles are out in the open, I look back on my history with that person and I think, I didn't exactly handle myself very well either. And by the way, you may be familiar with the term that we call reactive abuse. And I tend to cringe at that when I use that word abuse in this context. But let's say you have somebody that's being very harsh and abusive toward you and you match pitch in reverse. That's reactive abuse. You're abusive. I'm going to just mirror it right back. That's what this person is talking about. And so there are times when you're trying to pull out of a disastrous relationship or you're getting away from a system that hasn't been good for you, that you can look back with your own guilt or your own feelings of regret and say, you know, that brought out the worst in me. And I don't like how I handled myself. I don't like what happened to me. And so you yourself can be your own judge. And in doing so, then you feel that much more sheepish about moving forward. So we have kind of a twofold situation. When you are finally out there in the open and it's clear that the relationship with that narcissist isn't working, it could be that other people will look toward you and minimize, thinking, well, something's wrong with you. I knew it. They already had a certain propensity to judge anyway, and now you've given me reason to follow through on that, and that's what's going on, and that's on them. Because I can promise you, I haven't met the perfect person yet. And so when somebody comes along and they try to present themselves as being the paragon of decency and goodness and all the rest, they're just hiding a whole bunch of stuff. And so that's on them. But then sometimes it can be that you have your own self-judgmental attitude that when it comes time for you to say, yeah, things didn't work out, or I'm hurting or I'm struggling, that you're beating yourself up. And my response to that is, regardless of what other people are going to think, I hope that you can have the attitude that says, you know what, when I blunder or when problems come about or when relationships fall apart, I just don't feel the need to go into judgmental mode. I don't need to go into the shame game. You know, who am I supposed to blame? Or who am I supposed to kick in the shins? Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull back and say, okay, there are a lot of lessons to be learned here. What are they? And how can I be a better person by what I've gone through? You know, one of the things that my wife and I both have agreed to is that we actually prefer to be around people who aren't perfect. And we'll point blank say that to one another. It's like, you know, the person that comes along and says, well, I've got my act together. It's like, well, I can say hello to them in the grocery store, but I don't know that I need them to be on my inner circle. It's people who can say, yes, I've had pain. And they don't minimize it. And then when other folks come along and they say, well, you know, I'd like to join you in talking about that. Let's put our humanity out there in the open so that we can encourage each other and have mutual regard, mutual empathy. Those are the kind of people you're wanting to deal with. When you're dealing with strongly narcissistic individuals, they don't go into that space. Mutuality isn't there, and empathy is certainly missing. So when you feel minimized by that narcissist as your issues have become more and more public, I'm hoping two things. Number one, that you can understand there's a whole lot behind the scenes and that judgmental person's life that they're not really sharing with you. And then number two, it's forcing you to ask, well, can I go ahead and contend with what's going on inside of myself with a learning rather than a judgmental mindset? And in doing so, it allows you to at least know who your friends are. And it also allows you to say, I take my experiences and I learn from them. I'm moving forward. You see, that's what we do on Team Healthy. We don't, here on Team Healthy, we don't require perfection. All we ask for is learning and openness and growth and willingness to admit who you are. And if that's the kind of person you want to be, then my response is kudos to you. Those who minimize, it's like, great, that's who they are, but they don't need to be on my inner circle. So thank you for these people who have written in these comments and questions. If you have your own that you'd like for me to respond to on the Unbound series, put it in the comments section and I'll pick up on them. Who knows? It may be that we'll make a program on or a session on this with your question in mind. Now, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button, I would encourage you to do so. I so appreciate you allowing me to be on your team with you. By the way, Gus is just right here now. He's right next to me. He's just kind of wandering around. You know that I've been sponsored by, I have sponsors that help me with our programming here. And, one of my sponsors is BetterHelp.com. They've been with me a long time. So if you have a need to find an online therapist and that's become a popular, way of going about it, please go through the link we have below the video and get the help that you need. That can be so essential in your growth process. Also, go to my website. And you'll find my courses. We have a whole lot of them, or 4 of them actually, and they're very extensive, 25 videos per course at least, with handouts and guided questions. And then we also have my webinars, which are 90-minute PowerPoint presentations. We also have my articles and books, etc. So we have plenty of resources for you. You know, when you've felt like you've been kicked in the teeth by a narcissist or a narcissistic system, it's bad enough to just have to experience that. And then when someone comes along and minimizes that and says, well, you should have done this, and I don't know why you reacted that way, you just add to the burden. Those are individuals you'll just need to winnow out. But I'm hoping you can have a sense that says, well, I don't like what I've been through, but what I do like is that I learn, and I'm open to growth, and give yourself credit for that. And as long as you know you're leaning forward, then that's the best you can do. And so allow yourself to maintain your self-esteem even as you deal with sometimes difficult subjects. So hopefully in doing so, it can allow you to stay steady. And I'm hoping that you can continue further and further in your pathway towards peace.